She didn't knock. She sent a bulldozer. I was standing there when the machine smashed into the old wooden bridge and the HOA. Lady screamed, "That bridge is illegal. Remove him from the property." I laughed once, slow, because that bridge was the only way to my house. Cameras were already rolling when she slapped a fake HOA notice on my chest and said, I had 24 hours to leave. My daughter started crying behind me. Trucks blocked my driveway. My car was towed. Neighbors watched from their balconies like it was a show. She smiled and said, "You should have read the rules before living here." I stayed quiet. Because she didn't know why that bridge was there. She didn't know I bought this land long before her HOA existed. She didn't know the bridge wasn't just a bridge. And she definitely didn't know who really owned the water flowing under it. I looked at the broken wood, then at her face, and said one line that made her laugh hard. "Congrats. You just destroyed something you can never afford to replace." She laughed louder and waved her phone in my face. "Call your lawyer," she said, "because by morning you're gone." Then she made another call. Not real cops, just her HOA security. 2 guys jumped out wearing black vests, acting tough, telling me to step back from my own land. One of them whispered, "Don't make this hard." My daughter grabbed my hand tighter. That's when it got ugly. They locked my gate, put a chain on it, and told me I was trespassing. On my own house. I watched the bridge pieces floating away in the water and felt that quiet burn in my chest. I didn't shout. I didn't fight. I just pulled out my phone and recorded everything. Karen noticed and snapped, "Turn that off!" I smiled and said, "Too late." She leaned in close and hissed, "That dam upstream? HOA controls it. We'll cut your water access too." She thought that word would scare me. Damn. What she didn't know was simple and deadly for her plan. 5 years ago, when everyone thought that dam was useless land, I bought it quietly under another company name. I looked at the water, then back at her and said softly, "You should never threaten a man standing downstream." Her face didn't change, but her voice did. "He's lying," she said fast, a little too fast. She told the fake security to remove me by force. One of them stepped forward, grabbed my arm, and that's when a black SUV stopped behind them. Real plates, real uniforms. Not for her, for me. A man stepped out, nodded once, and said, "Sir, we've been monitoring the situation." Karen froze. She tried to take control again, yelling about HOA authority and emergency powers. The officer looked at the broken bridge, the chains, my crying child, then asked one question that cut her confidence in half. "Ma'am, do you have legal proof to block access to a private residence?" She didn't. She pulled out papers, shaking, but they were fake notices. The officer turned to me and said quietly, "Do you want to press charges for trespassing?" I said, "Not yet." Karen smirked again. Thought she won. She didn't see me send one text. Upstream, miles away, a switch flipped. The water level behind the dam began to drop. Slowly at first, then fast. Her waterfront view started shrinking in real time. And I said the line that made the officer look at me twice. By sunset, their million-dollar views will be mud. At first, no one noticed. Karen was still arguing, still loud, still sure she was in charge. Then a neighbor pointed and said, "Why is the water going down?" Phones came out. Drones lifted. The shiny blue line in front of the mansions kept pulling back like it was scared. Docks tilted. Boats leaned on their sides. Karen's phone started ringing non-stop. She ignored it. Until someone screamed from across the water, "Our foundation is showing!" That's when fear finally hit her eyes. She turned to me and said, "Stop this right now." I shrugged and said, "You destroyed my bridge without asking." She shouted that I was abusing power. The officer asked calmly, "Do you own the dam, sir?" I handed him a folder. Deeds, dates, signatures. He flipped one page and raised his eyebrows. Karen stepped back like the ground moved. Another call came in, and this time she answered. Everyone heard the voice yelling through the phone. "Do you know what you've done?" She whispered. I thought he was nobody. I looked at the empty water line, then at my daughter and said softly, "That's what you get wrong most of the time." The yelling didn't stop. Sirens started coming from every direction, not for me, for the mansions. Cracks showed where water once hid everything. One dock snapped and dropped. Karen tried to run, saying this was an emergency and she needed control back. The officer stopped her and said, "Ma'am, you're not in charge here." She lost it. She blamed me, the city, even the neighbors. Then the real twist hit. Another officer walked up and said, "We checked the bridge." He looked straight at Karen. It was listed as protected access. Destroying it is a felony. Her mouth opened, no words came out. I showed the footage. Her orders, the machine, the fake security, everything. The officer nodded slowly and said, "This is impersonation and illegal seizure." Handcuffs came out. Karen screamed, "You can't do this to me!" I leaned in just enough and said, "You did this to yourself." As they walked her away, she shouted one last thing. "You ruined us!" I shook my head and answered calm, "No, I just stopped letting you ruin others." They thought it was over, but it wasn't. Draining the water exposed more than mud. Old pipes, illegal pumps, hidden drains all showed up on camera. Inspectors arrived fast. One of them walked up to me and said, "Did you know the HOA was selling water rights they never owned?" I nodded. Karen's friends from the board started showing up. Acting shocked, acting innocent. One tried to shake my hand and said, "We can fix this quietly." I stepped back and said, "Quiet is how you got rich." The inspector overheard that and asked for records. Minutes later, faces went pale. Millions missing, fake permits, backdated papers. One mansion owner fell to his knees when he heard the fines. Another started yelling at the HOA board on live stream. My phone buzzed again. A message from my lawyer. "Press ready. Full release approved." I looked around at the chaos. My daughter standing calm now, and said one line the cameras caught clear. "They stole water, land, and silence. Today they lose all three." Karen wasn't smiling anymore. She sat in the back of the cruiser, head down, while the HOA board tried to save themselves. It didn't work. Warrants came fast. Bank accounts were frozen. One by one, board members were questioned in front of the same neighbors they once threatened. The bridge issue came back again, louder this time. The city engineer said rebuilding it was their responsibility, not mine. Then he paused and added, "With penalties." The number he said made people gasp. I finally told the officer to file the charges I held back earlier. He nodded and said, "Good call." My daughter asked if we were going home. I looked at the broken land, the dry shore, and said, "We already are." As Karen was driven away, she looked out once and whispered something I couldn't hear. It didn't matter. The line that spread online that night wasn't hers. It was mine, spoken calm into the camera. You don't lose power when someone fights back. You lose it when it was never yours. The bridge was rebuilt in silence. Not by me, by court order. Fresh wood, stronger steel, wider than before. The water never fully came back. The dam stayed under my control, legal and clean. Those mansions lost their magic once the truth showed. Some were sold cheap. Some stayed empty. No more HOA signs. No more fake rules. One morning, my daughter walked across the new bridge and asked, "Are they gone forever?" I said, "People like that don't disappear. They just lose their mask." Flags went up along the road a week later, not for me, but for something they forgot. Mattered. Freedom, property, respect. I stood there, hand on the rail, thinking about how close. I came to losing everything because someone thought power was a costume. I looked into the camera one last time and said the line that stayed with people long after the stream ended. I didn't buy the dam for revenge. I bought it so no one could ever drain my life again. Months later, a letter showed up in my mailbox. No logo, no threats, just one sentence written shaky. I thought power meant control. I was wrong. I folded it and threw it away. Power isn't breaking bridges. It isn't yelling rules you don't own. Power is staying calm when they try to erase you and letting the truth do the damage. The water stayed low, the land stayed mine, and my daughter slept safe every night. People still drive by and point at the dam like it's some legend. I don't correct them. I just smile and live my life. Because the real ending isn't about Karen, or the HOA, or the mansions. It's about one simple truth that nobody can drain. There was no next move for them. Only distance. News clips faded. Comments slowed. The outrage found a new target. But every time it rained, the sound of water hitting the dam reminded me how close it all came. One bad day, one wrong person thinking I was weak. I fixed the fence, planted trees where cameras once stood, and stopped checking the shoreline. Life got quiet again. Real quiet. And that's when I knew it was truly over. Not because they lost, but because I didn't have to think about them anymore. I locked the gate one night, looked back once, and said the last line only the land could hear. Peace feels better than power, when power was never the goal. End the story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing HOA stories.